Hello and welcome to the Gamblin White paint comparison. We're taking a look at 3 of the Gamblin White paints. All of them are made with the same pigment, PW6 titanium white, and yet they all behave totally differently. We're talking about Gamblin's Radiant White, their Flake White Replacement, and their classic titanium white. The first paint on our palette is Radiant White, and this paint is super light and fluffy, almost like whipped cream. This is a really surprising texture for a Gamblin paint. The second is Gamblin's Flake White Replacement, which behaves totally differently. It is intended to emulate genuine lead white, and we see where they were going here, gesturing to the ropiness, the way it flattens out with a little more heaviness, maybe the stand oil. This is a paint that really grabs the palette knife, and you can still get a little bit of impasto. This paint can tend a bit towards stringiness. And then we have Gamblin's normal titanium white. This paint is almost like its own material, and I wish I knew what was in it. It's short, it's glossy, it's not exactly a resin-like note, but it does grip the palette knife, and it is also super smooth and sculptable with that classic Gamblin impasto quality. Texture can be a little bit deceptive when viewed in isolation, so here's a shot of the Gamblin titanium white next to the titanium white that we use as our standard white on the paint list, which is Williamsburg. How about the tinting strength of these various white paints? To test this, we mixed a little bit of Gamblin Raw Sienna 1:1 with each one of the white paints. The Radiant White was by far the strongest tinter and retained the fluffy, glossy texture that it had right out of the tube. Flake White Replacement was the opposite and let through a lot of the Raw Sienna color. The regular Gamblin White was a bit of a surprise in that it was about halfway in between the Radiant White on the one hand and the Flake White Replacement on the other as far as tinting strength. We also compared the Gamblin Titanium White with the Williamsburg Titanium White to see if there were any noticeable tinting differences. The Gamblin Titanium White was ever so slightly cooler in color temperature, and the tinting strength was somewhat comparable. Let's take a look at some of the potential benefits of why you might want to use these various white paints. The Radiant White might be an interesting choice if you wanted to mix it into the other paints on your palette as you paint along, which would then modify the texture of the Gamblin paints that you have while still painting with the Gamblin brand. However, this paint does include safflower oil. There is a big difference texturally, and also it is the strongest tinting titanium white of the batch. The Flake White Replacement had some interesting qualities. It could be a good choice if you want that texture or a less strongly tinting titanium white, and it is a bit warmer. This isn't lead white, but if you live somewhere where you can't get lead white or you don't want the toxicity, this could be an interesting paint to try. Overall, we were amazed at what a good replacement Flake White Replacement really was. In sum, the Radiant White was the strongest tinter, the Flake White Replacement was the warmest, as well as the gentlest tinter, and the Gamblin Regular Titanium was ever so slightly more cool-toned than the Williamsburg. Have you tried these paints? As always, you can find out more about each one of them at paintlist.com. Thanks for watching.